Welcome to the Build and Exit podcast. I'm delighted to announce our next guest is Perry Newton. So as a bit of a summary to me, I am Julie Wilkerson and I own Wilkerson Accounting Solutions. We're an accounting and consultancy firm and we specialise in business acquisitions and helping people plan their exit strategies. The guests we have on the show are to give people knowledge of key areas of business, but also how you could use that knowledge to exit plan or buy other businesses. So Perry has a wealth of experience. He's built and managed multiple high brand businesses and has actually successfully completed an exit to a larger corporate company, and also currently owns 266, which is a marketing agency, which does a mix of different marketing and sales. But one of the things that's quite interesting is he focuses on something called fractional ownership, which was quite new to me. And top level, that's where people are selling off luxury assets like property and boats to different investors who take a share of those assets. So Perry, thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and I'll hand over to you just to give a bit of a background of yourself and why you decided to come on the show.
Yeah, well, we specialise in monetization of assets. So whether that be hotels, resorts, single properties, private or commercial. We work with family offices, or we have done for many years, but we work with separate companies now. And, we work to try and make people, or people, companies outside the sphere of property even, just businesses in general, if they want some, to mature their brand, or they want to be more profitable, more consistent. We specialize in the actual sales mechanics as much as we do the agency work. That's kind of the trinkets. That's just a skill set we have. But we do focus on monetization of assets, or being more profitable, being better at if you're selling something to someone or you're marketing something, and it really the key leverage on that is you want more sales. You want to command more in your market. You want to be more efficient and more profitable. That's where we come in.
Yeah. So you obviously we talk quite. I've known you for a little while, and you had this before this company. You built a bit of a portfolio and sold. I mean, are you happy to talk a little bit about that, like how you did it, and then what made you exit?
Yeah, I think, we exited for a number of different reasons, because we were fragmented in quite a lot of different markets then, in vehicles, property, hotels and resorts, this kind of thing. And one of our UBOs, had health issues, so, he wanted to exit. We had some partnership deals going on, and one of the partners was becoming more dominant in the business, so they wanted to take a portion of that over. And we got some international investors from Malaysia and places like this with, big brand names, and they were interested in taking some of the business as well. So it was a lot of kind of things going on at one time. We had a kind of a mix of a legacy strategy, because we predominantly work for one main family, an American family office, and there was an exit strategy to some of our business as well. So, and I know that some of your clients will either go one way or the other. I don't think there's any more strategies, is there? There's either a legacy business, you want to pass it on to your kids, you're building something that you want to pass to your kids, or it's something that you build up and you want to exit. And I think what's important with that is that to understand that strategy from the beginning. And one of the things that I really like dealing with you, and obviously the clients that we work on together, is to get that kind of fundamental agreement in place at the beginning, and make good partnerships with people like yourself, so that the strategy and structure of all this is in place from the beginning. Saves you going back years and years later to try and make the changes that you need to make these businesses attractive for a potential buyer. When you do want to exit or you do want to pass it on, it's crucially important that these things are thought about in the early stages. And I think what we've done is we ourselves, as we've grown, we've acquired other businesses that have added value to the individual parts of what we've done, whether it be hotels, whether it be something that might benefit. We had a boat business, a big boat business where we specialised, and in Sunseekers, and we were quite happy to take over other smaller operations that helped us manage that, or gave us crew members, or something that boosted the business. And so sometimes we did that, and other times what we did is we improved what we had already. Because we have such a broad skill set, whether it's sales, marketing, digital, on the ground, we would go into one of the businesses that we had, and we would improve it. Like we were talking earlier, some businesses get so far and then they need to mature. They see opportunity. They want to be bigger in their marketplace. They want to be more influential. I'm not saying that they're building trophy businesses, but they want to be better than the other businesses in their sphere. They know who the competitors are. They want to look better. And I think sometimes you can overlook the fact that to add more value to your company, to acquire them, be attractive to these other customers, and to make your business grow, you reach a point where, from where you set off to where you are now, and your revenue's cranking up, and you're doing millions now, or hundreds of thousands, towards the millions or in the millions, and you find that your brand's not very mature. It's still got a lot of elements that it had when you started, but you never get round to it, because it's like being a builder or a gardener, and then coming home and your wife saying, that bedroom's still the same as it was 5 years ago, but yet you're still going out there and doing building work and decorating for everyone else. And it's exactly the same with your own business, but it's something to be mindful of, that you take over that online footprint as well as the influence and the image that you're putting out there. So hence why, with the way we work, is we have all that suite of skills in-house, but it's not really where our focus is. Our focus is on the business structure. Our focus is, what are you where do you want to go, and how are you performing, and how could we make you more profitable? How could we make you sell more, retain more profit, be more efficient, keep your costs down, and really kind of strategize the vision for the future, whether it is for legacy planning or whether it's for exit.
So it was interesting where you said that people to build their brand, then like mature their brand, because that's an interesting concept. Because I do think people don't think about it a lot. For a start, we know on due diligence, a lot of people don't even trademark brands. So obviously, I think people don't think about their brands quite a lot. So if you were going to give a bit of advice to sort of people looking to exit in terms of building their brand, what sorts of things should they be thinking about?
Well, I think a lot of people are kind of really protective over the brand. They've got a lot of belief in it, in their company, and that's rightly so. I think you have to have something that for yourself, and I think for the people who work for you, sends some kind of transcendental message down to the people who work in your company, a message of positivity and hope and growth, and contribution, and all these messages come down. And I think the image that this pushes out there, is really important, and I think it needs to fit the stage at which you're at with your business as well. I think it needs to fit that. So it's always worth kind of going back at it, and it's basically like having a makeover. We used to go around all our businesses and our head teams of these businesses who used to manage these on a daily basis. And every so often we'd go back to these and say, do you guys need a bit of a makeover? We'd have a look at the market that they're in. We'd have a look at the competitors. We'd see how much traffic, how much interest, how many people are looking, through the analytics at these companies. Who's watching them? Where are they marketing? Where are they making their spend? All these things are quite easy to see where your competitors are spending their money. Are they going out there and actively trying to capture? Are they using more rudimentary ways of putting themselves out there? Mail shot. Are they doing non-digital things? More analog type of things. And it's this kind of sidestepping all the time and looking at these kind of things that does keep you in front and give you the edge. But it's no different than giving a person a makeover, to keep looking at yourself every now and again and thinking, do we look like we're ahead of the pack here? Is that what is the image that we're putting out there? Not only to the people that are outside, it's people that are inside your business as well. We're working with an iGaming company at the moment in the Mediterranean, and they're the same. It's a competitive environment that they're in. They have a fantastic culture, and they do sports betting and iGaming and that kind of thing. But they have this amazing culture. So for them, the biggest thing for them is not acquiring more clients for that company. It's acquiring the best software engineers that they can get, because that lifts the peer group. The more that they look credible and that they look like somewhere where people want to work, and they have long-term prospects, and they have freedom of working remotely, and they have all this kind of stuff going on, and they have great environments. The recruitment costs are less. They retain great people. It attracts more good people to them, more high quality software engineers, and this is really important, to have good people in your company. And people are attracted. They check you out. People use the internet as a point of reference now. Whether it's your customers, they'll check on you. If they buy something from you, they'll recheck on you. They'll check on your personal Facebook pages to make sure that they've made the right decision spending the money with you. And people do this all the time. And employees now will check you out, and they'll say, does this fit my image? Is this the type of company that I want on my CV? Is this the type of company, the roles have changed slightly now, so, and they'll check you out and say, is this adding value to my life working for this company? Is this somebody that I want to be associated with?
Yeah, because that's interesting, isn't it? You're saying that they're focusing more on who they're employing than all just the customers. Because I suppose what we're saying here is thinking about it differently from acquirer's perspective. So if you're, it's okay having all great clients, but, when a buyer comes along and is looking at, oh, I'm going to buy the business. Actually, if there's no one there to service those customers, or there's risks that you have high turnover of staff, actually, it might not even be the numbers of the business that makes you less attractive. It could actually be the delivery, just the whole business, the actual business model of the internal resource.
Yeah. If you're buying and selling a business, you're buying the people. You don't want to think after 2 minutes all the people is going to go, even if the asset value is in the company itself. You still want to think you're taking over a company where the people love to work there, they've been treated well, they're rewarded well, the growth prospects are good, and that will reflect in the homework these people do. I mean, you can't think for a second in this day and age that people who are buying a business are not going to really sift through page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Google. They're not going to just search the first page, because all the nasty stuff is on 2, 3, 4, and 5, if there is any. Or they're going to look at the engagement. If you've got an About Us page, and all it says is, which I've seen loads of it, the About Us page on a company, I think, is really important, because that shows you the people. It shows you the culture of the company. It shows you how it was managed by the people at the top of it. And the thing is when you sometimes look into this, the About Us page, the company talks about itself and not about its people. And I find that completely laughable. The About Us page, and it goes on talking about the company again. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. Well, no one's interested in that. I want to know who Maureen is, who works on the lathe, who does the lathing. How happy is Maureen? And I'm going to check Maureen out on Facebook if I can, just to see whether, she's a nice person and she posts things about her company. It's this kind of thing, I think, this kind of detail. Maybe not everyone's, quite as detail orientated as me with that level of, kind of Inspector Clouseau. But I would like to think that if somebody's spending millions on buying a business, or hundreds of thousands of pounds, I would want to know everything about the people in it. Not only the leaders of it, because I think it's a lot of value. It would make me feel more comfortable if I was taking over something that, that I could add value to. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing it otherwise. But also that the people in it were feeling like they had a valued company. It does make a difference, and I think people do check it.
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? And I think this is one of the problems, because a lot of the SMEs being sold are sort of owner operated. So the problem is, like you're saying, they're focusing a lot on the getting new customers, which might include sales and marketing, but maybe always from maybe just slight role aspect all the time because they're just focused on getting more and more customers. And then we know, don't we, from these owner operated businesses that they then do everything in the business. So even if they've grown to quite a substantial size and they have people, I've seen because of all the due diligence that we do in the deals where, people will say, oh, I've got a managing director, but what they're not thinking about from a buyer's perspective is, well, who is that managing director? So, in the real world, if you put someone into a management, it's Bob that's worked in the company 15 years and he's been loyal and he's now been promoted to the MD. But if you took yourself out from an investor's side and said, well, if it was more of a corporate company, would that person get the role? Because what I see a lot in the companies is the MD itself. This MD isn't really got the skills of an MD. What they've done really is they've dropped the boat. The owner was working 70 hours. Now they only have to work 30 hours. For them, it's a godsend. This person's, the be all and end all of the company. But actually, are they delivering an ownership of a company that someone would think if they bought into that MD? And that's what you're saying about the resource, isn't it? About the people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, some people, they kind of put, or we'll put a Facebook page up, or we'll go on LinkedIn, or this, and the last post I did is, 2017. You're actually better off not having anything up because it looks like you don't care about anything. So it's actually better you take all that off. And I think, yeah, you're right. All of this kind of stuff, this attention, and I know people got loads of it, but it doesn't have to cost the world to have a good strategy for all of these things. But a lot of companies, they've no idea what their client acquisition cost is. And it doesn't really matter whether you're selling joinery works or you're doing steel works or you're selling white goods or you're a builder. Whatever it is, there's a cost to every client that you acquire that you're selling to, and there's so much of this out there that all of this stuff that we've been talking about today, this adds value because you're organically really drawing people towards you, whether it's better staff, better qualified staff, higher profile staff, or whether you're drawing customers to you because of how you're influencing your online space and you're projecting yourself out there, within your own peer group as a company, and that cuts your client acquisition costs down. You don't have to work quite as hard if other people don't have to work so hard to see whether you're worth doing business with or not. And when it comes to, like you say, I know your M&A is like kind of the core of what you guys do. And I still think all that adds value when there's a proposition afoot. All these things. You want to feel proud about taking over your other company. You want to feel that you're going to add value to it because you want to raise the value of it one way or another. Work on what you got or acquire another business to benefit the one you have. But you still want to feel that you're acquiring something of value.
Yeah. And I think people focus on... So I think sometimes owners do think about people, but maybe they're always focusing on the people that they think are making the money, not necessarily the back office. So you'll have to listen. Last week we recorded someone that did a management buy-in, but it took 3 years. And the essence of, we go into a lot of it on the episode, but the essence was the sellers hadn't really considered it, but kind of got forced into it for different reasons. And the first thing the investors said, so more like the angel investors, when they'll come in to look at it, was, well, where's your finance team? Go and get yourself a CFO and, then we'll do it. And, a lot of people are trying to scrimp and save and because the amount of times we see org charts on sellers' businesses that say they have an FD, and you go, well, who is the person? Show me the CV, and they're like the sister or the brother or the wife or the husband of the person, and they've never done a finance qualification in their life. They've never really ran a business before, but they're there because they're passionate about the business. But sometimes being passionate about a business doesn't give you the skill to run it.
Yeah. And again, I think that's awareness, because I think it's a little bit more awareness, and obviously you're bringing that awareness to people, forefront of people's minds. It's not, there's certain things that you don't want to scrimp on, and especially when you're strategizing and when you're setting out on your journey. These partnerings are are really important for your business journey, to do good partnering. Like you say, you can't scrimp. You can't get Dave from down the road who used to work for a business, and he's got some finance skills. You really can't take that kind of a risk, because there's more elements coming into play here. You need somebody to sit down and strategize. What about if I do this? What if I do that? Can I structure my that? Well, and somebody to kind of give you that backwards and forwards communication with you, to bring ideas up that you hadn't thought of.
And you've obviously, with having your exit strategy, with you successfully selling, I mean, you've obviously had experience of doing this. So when you sold your businesses or your group of companies, who did you eventually roll up and sell to? Was it a bigger corporation?
Not all. One was a partnership that we'd already had. Like I said, they were becoming more of a dominant partner, doing more and more roles. And so, the conversation came up, and they wanted to acquire the rest of a certain part of the business, or certain properties and businesses that go with it. So we let that go, and that arrangement was made. And there was other instances where we just had singular businesses that wanted to grow and acquire some of our, such as boat business. They already had charter businesses quite big in the area, and they just wanted to take over ours. So obviously it was a deal worth doing, and we moved that along. And as always, being in the hospitality sector, the hotel market is always moving around, because there's developers in there, and there's people who want to manage hotels. And we got approached by a big brand who liked some of our properties, and they felt that by adding them properties to their portfolio, they would expand, a high quality product in areas where they had no exposure. And that deal probably took it was pretty quick actually, probably about 18 months, a couple of years. And then that was done as well, and it came with lots of land and different bits and pieces to it. So so lots of different things, and obviously, and we also had our UBO at the time, had some, like I said, unfortunately had some health issues as well, and like we were talking earlier, his kids didn't want anything to do with it. They were, they'd made lots of money over the years. The kids had fragmented. They lived in the States, and they lived in Italy, and they lived here and there. They didn't want to run a big business. They didn't want to run even the little bits of the business. They didn't want to run any of it. They all had their own little things that they wanted to do. So they wasn't interested in, any of that. So it came a point where we just had so much interest in little bits of the business that were already going on. It left like some core assets, and we thought, well, we'll just sell all of it now. We just break the rest of it up and sell it, and and that was it. Everybody went their happy merry way, and it kind of worked. Yeah. I don't think there's any kind of set rule to it, but we were positioned well for it. We knew at the beginning that these were options that would at some point come. So we prepared for it from the beginning, because, like I said, there's only two ways you're going to go. You're either going to keep it pass it to the kids or the family, or you're going to exit it. That is it, really. There isn't nothing else to think about. But you do need to be set up properly for that, I think.
Yeah, and so many people are seeing that. I mean, we see that in the acquisitions, like they're not thinking about their setup enough. We've seen deals where people have been talking about these deals for months, and maybe they start the due diligence a bit too late in the process, and then we've come in and found there's like a random company that's like the holding company or something, but actually got trade going through a few $100,000. It's never been included in the valuation. Or people that have multiple trades and businesses, and they only want to sell part of the company, and now they haven't got the right, well, they can sell it, but it makes it more complicated because they don't have the good bookkeeping, so they can't they can't show what costs and sales relate to that part of the trade. Whereas, like you, if they thought about it 18 months, 3 years before, and thought, right, I'm going to do this, and spoke to them and got the right finance team, and spoke to the right people, and getting the setup right, they could potentially split things out, get it set up correctly, get the right things in place, and then it makes everything a lot easier. So I definitely agree.
Well, it's difficult enough when you sat in board meetings with different companies, and especially when these different companies have different board members in it. they tend to look at a set of numbers, the way they understand them. They have a set of numbers. They have the P&Ls. They have it laid out the way that they understand it, and it's difficult enough sitting at different tables, and you have to tune into how they're reading through it. Especially if it's a team of people, a management team who are used to looking at things and discussing things in a certain manner. This is but this is one art in itself, I think, where you have to be flexible, and patient. But what's frustrating is when you sit at any of these tables and there isn't the correct information in these documents, or there's certain things omitted for certain reasons, and you have to then chase this information through. And I find that intolerable, because no one's got the time for this type of stuff, especially when, I always kind of revert back to my Yorkshire computer. It's like there's something going out here and something coming in here. And it's just a quick tally up of this one way or another. It's just a more complicated look at this. But when there's something's missing from one side or the other, for whatever reason, I find that intolerable. I just can't be doing with it. Whether there's funding or there's interest on funding and it just doesn't show in the books. Well, why isn't it in why is it off the books? Why would you not include it? Because that skews all the numbers now. Or there's some debt in there that hasn't been accounted for because of some self-imposed reasoning. You can't have this kind of thing going on, because these are things that waste everybody's time, and they're so frustrating, because you think you're looking at one thing and you actually turns out to be a completely different story. I really dislike this. When you're doing due diligence, you're going through this procedure and you hit these kind of roadblocks, and it happens a lot more than you would probably think. And I think sometimes it's a bit of naivety. I don't think it's ever done maliciously or kind of in a devious way. It's just like some people get used to bad habits.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to get you on, Perry. I mean, we're coming to sort of towards the end of the episode, but I think it's really interesting because, you run this sales and marketing company, but and people are trying to find the right sales and marketing team. But all these things we spoke about is what the business acumen that you've got. I mean, this is what, people get when they use experienced people in the field when they're helping and not scrimping and saving, trying to do the Facebook ads themselves without really the strategy, because everyone just wants to spend on what they think is what's going to generate the income, not really thinking about the brand. Because, if someone's looking to sell their business, but they need to they might need to improve their brand and their sales, or sort that out. It's really interesting to think that as a marketing company, a sales and marketing company, you've got all this experience and understand this business acumen. Because you say the word board meeting, I would say 50% of SMEs probably don't even have a board meeting anyway. So just that alone. Yeah. So just to start those things in your mind and think, right, I've got to start my brand. And the brand isn't just what people see on LinkedIn or Facebook. It's actually, what do your employees think, and then how incorporated are the employees. So, it's been really good to hear about your experiences. So just before we get off there, obviously coming to the current day, and you're with 26, and we talked about the fractional ownership. With what you're doing now, so if people were looking, so obviously this can help with their exit strategy planning, what sort of guide would you give, sort of a few top tips to say, if they were going to come to you and say, right, I want to improve my sales and brand, what sort of top tips, I know you work in detail with people, what top tips could you give people to start thinking about now, whether they actually need to improve their brand?
There's a lot of kind of agencies out there who do some great work, but I think you don't have to spend the earth doing it. I think it's always good to have, like I say, a makeover session. Let's have a chat about, how do we look, to everybody? How do we look to people who we're employing? How do we look to the people who already work for us? How do they feel? How do our customers feel? And it's always good to kind of have a look at that, and your client's acquisition costs, all this kind of stuff is always a nice little meeting to have. But you don't have to bring these agencies in who charge you loads of money to do it. They should really have some skin in the game. We certainly do when we speak to our clients. We do quite a lot of jobs where we'll speak to people for no money at all, and we just kind of have a chat, to discuss things and see whether there's a path forward for it. What you don't want is these guys coming in charging you like lawyers for every kind of phone call, because there are a lot out there like that. I mean, it's supposed to be, a constructive kind of thing, So I would just say, like I say, it's a bit of a makeover session. It's, when are you going to sit down and pay some attention to look back at your strategy again, look back at your image of your company, and where you're going with it, and does it fit your image? Does it fit what you're trying to portray out there? Is it benefiting you? And you don't have to spend tons of money doing it. It just needs a little bit of thought. Do you need to mature your brand now? Is it time now to grow up a bit? Is it time to look it coldly in the face and say, okay, where are we going? Does it look good for future investors? Is this good? Would I buy it? Would I buy my business again? Would you buy it? Would you buy from it? Would you work for it? These are great questions to ask, and just to sit down there and it's always worthwhile having a go at it. And all these things, bearing in mind, are budgetable, the same as staff motivation and all the rest of it, and any kind of stuff on marketing. So all down to clever budgeting.
Yeah. Well, I know all about budgeting. So I think the essence is, people, you give us some really good questions there. And I think the main principle is to people, if they're thinking about exit, if they've never done this before, then probably it's the time to start if they're looking to exit. And even if they have done it, ask themselves, because we have similar questions on the finance side, ask these questions to themselves. And if they're not sure, then I think I would be saying that's probably the time when they need to start thinking, look, I maybe need to have this makeover assessment of the brand to make sure someone is actually going to want to buy it. Because like you say, if you've never really assessed it, then you wouldn't know. And to be honest, this has been a bit of a learning curve for me. I mean, I'm not like a marketing expert, so understanding how to manage your brand and stuff is really important.
Yeah, it's not a case of just having someone come in and giving you lots of little graphs and charts and this, that, to justify the poor performance, because there's such a lot of that going on. You want somebody to come in and who's going to help you, not come in with a handout to start with, and somebody who, where you're going to get tangible change, where you can see it and feel it, and on the bottom line you're seeing it. There's too many people out there giving charts and graphs, and executive and board members don't understand half of these graphs anyway. What's the point? They just want some results. They just want somebody to actually do what they say for a change.
Yeah. So if anybody is like looking for a brand maker or needs to get you, where can they find you? Do you want to give your contact details?
Yeah, you can find us online, 266. We're out there. You can find us. We're on the internet. We're dead easy to find. Yeah. 266.com.
Brilliant.
We're there.
Well, thanks so much for coming, Perry. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the show.
Yes, I've enjoyed it. It's been very nice.
Oh, good. And to our listeners, thank you again. If you're listening to the show, it'd be great if you want to hear more of acquisition exit strategy planning. Subscribe or leave a review on our Apple channel because there's lots more to come. So thank you for listening.